Once upon a time, a city girl named Felicity and a city boy named Peter bought an abandoned 1830s farmhouse in New York. And today, February 8th, 2025, we are making progress on the last big project of the house, which is replacing the doors and windows. Now, I know it doesn't look like much from the picture, but imagine the windows you're seeing now, older, wood peeling, a little bit cracked, maybe a little bit rotted in a couple places, single pane windows with some cracks in the glass. And now you can appreciate that this is a big improvement. However, it's also not the improvement that we expected. So, just a quick catch up before I take you on the tour of the windows as I first saw them. We have not been able to work on the house for a couple of weeks due to some financial issues with our general contractor and also some medical issues. He's been in the hospital for a couple of different reasons. So, it's been a couple of weeks since I was out at the house. My partner, Peter, also has not been able to be at the house nearly as often because he's really, really busy at work right now, which is great from a financial perspective, but it means that we haven't been as on site as we usually are to oversee the window project, which just started on Monday and today is Saturday. So that is definitely a factor in why this did not turn out the way that we expected. So let's take a look at the windows as I first saw them, and then we'll talk afterwards about what didn't go according to plan. Although I think it will be fairly obvious from the footage.
So for those of you who have been following for a while, you will remember we had a whole fiasco with the windows. If you're new here, let me catch you up briefly. The windows are not a standard size because the house is an older house. So we put it in order through our general contractor to have custom cut windows. Unfortunately, we did not realize that the company had outsourced to China, which would not have been a problem, except that our windows got lost on the container ship from China. And for 3 months, there was absolutely no update. And we just could not wait any longer to get the windows done. So what we've done instead, and I'll show you an up close, the window frames are about an inch taller than your standard modern windows. And so you'll see that there's some framing going on inside the existing window frames to fit the slightly shorter modern windows. And in some places, like back here, I can see there's actually more than an inch of framing going on. It's the middle of winter. And so we, both for being able to move in and being able to get something that is more insulative, we went with what we had available to us. And ideally, once the framing is all painted green, you're never going to notice unless you actually go up and stare at it. I'm upstairs because this is actually one of the best places to show you what's been done with the windows. So this is the room, the window in my office that looks out towards the lake. Hello, Seneca Lake. And you can see they've had to frame it in a little bit all the way around to make it fit. Let's see if I can zoom you out here so you can see the whole fitting. Yeah, so that's one of the framings they had to do. And then this is the other window in here. They had to do that there as well. But then here, this is the window in the hallway. You can see this one is a different framing adventure. And this is the other window in the hallway. And you can see that this one needed a lot more up top, which doesn't surprise me. We're in the addition here, or overlooking the addition. I think some of these windows might be a little bit newer because you can see the ones in Peter's office have the same treatment that the ones in my office had. Ooh, somebody's been in here and cleaned up again. But you can see this one has kind of the same style of framing that my office did. And these are the windows in the master. Again, the same kind of framing that they have in most of the upstairs rooms, which doesn't surprise us. We measured these windows because we were looking at getting curtains for them, and they are all the same. So the windows in the 3 bedrooms are the same, but the 2 windows in the stairwell are not. So let's go down to the main floor and take a look at what's been done down there. So on the topic of creative framing, this window is going to have to be taken out and reinstalled because if you guys can see, if I get up close here, the wall, this is actually, we think, a 90 degrees to the ground. The problem, of course, is that the wall is no longer 90 degrees to the ground. So you can see here at the bottom, it's actually set inside the old frame. And then if I pan up to the top, it's actually almost flush with the framing. So this one is going to be something of an adventure to get organized. And these ones too, you can see there's much more than an inch up here that needed to be filled in. I'm excited. We're getting doors next, and I'm really, really excited to get some new doors on this place. So this is the other window on the front, and this one does not have quite as bad, but even so, up there, the gap is small enough that I can't fit my pinky finger in, and here, the gap is big enough that I can put my index finger all the way in. So this is going to be the last great problem-solving adventure to get sorted. Here's the window on the front of the house. This one also tilts, but not as much. I can get my finger and more down in there. And then up there, I can barely get my finger in. So yeah, that's the problem with these adventures. Old houses that are no longer level, trying to get them leveled out is pretty crazy. This one has been framed out all the way, so you can no longer see the gaps that are there. And you can see it is shorter. It would have been nice to have a window that went all the way up to the top. But as I said, we need to get into this house, and we can't, at this point, hang around too much longer for them to get fixed. This here, again, has a larger framing.
So at this point, I stopped filming because Peter called me back into the house, and we stood in the living room on the inside of that first crooked window that I showed you guys. And the more I stared at them, the more I hate them. I was fine with the 1-inch gap around them. The ones upstairs in the bedroom that we saw first, those don't bother me because that's not a lot of light loss. It doesn't really change the proportion very much. All of that is copacetic. However, at no point when they were installing the windows on the ground floor the whole week leading up to this inspection did they call and tell us that they were having a problem and would need to take off 4 to 6 inches of window. Now, again, part of that might have been discovered if we had been able to be out on site. Peter did go briefly to have a couple of in-person conversations with our general contractor, but they were about timelines and finances. They were not inspections. So part of what really makes me upset about these windows is that I was not expecting to see that much window taken off because that's not what we had been told, and we did not authorize a change. The other thing I don't like about them is that they take 4 to 6 inches of my light away, and that is a very light-filled house. There are a lot of windows, but I like all my light, especially in the summertime. And third, the reason that we opted to keep the frames of the windows as they are is because that's what makes the proportions of the house look right. The house is designed to have those longer and taller windows, and I'm not keen on changing the proportions by painting over part of that. Now, it could be that white paint will still maintain the appearance of the windows, but you guys, I'm not a fan. We found out afterwards through a conversation with our general contractor that part of the reason that they framed down that 4 to 6 inches is that the header boards in quite a few of those window frames were not in great shape. So rather than replace them, which seemed to us the easier thing to do, he decided to leave the header boards in place and to build down the framing, that 4 to 6 inches that you saw in the video. So right now, I'm editing this on a Wednesday, so I'm editing this 4 days after the footage was shot. We have told him to not do anything else with the windows on the main floor until we have made a decision and to focus on the doors. The problem ahead of us, as with so many things on this house, is financial. The windows probably can't be returned now that they have already been installed and caulked and nailed and all that kind of stuff. We don't yet know if there are standard size windows that are 4 to 6 inches taller. Maybe they're not. Maybe that's the tallest standard size window we can get to fit that space. So we're just sort of stuck. I didn't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this is not at all what we had anticipated for those 8 windows on the ground floor. And so we will have to decide probably by the end of this week whether that's something we can live with or what our options are to ameliorate them in some way. There are a couple other house updates, excuse me, that I want to bring you from the basement that are not depressing. And then the saving grace for this day at the house is that it started snowing that evening when we went out to dinner. And I want to show you just a little bit of that footage because I think it's absolutely beautiful. I don't know if I've showed you guys, this is our entire water filtration system as it's all
installed, which is fabulous. And then they've also installed I'm going to call it a sloss and cutoff, but it's not that. They've installed a separate switch over here, so if we need to turn the water pump, etc., off, we can. The water pipes have been freezing off and on. They're supposed to be wrapped now with heat tape to see if that will fix the problem short term, and then next summer we will have to figure out if it's the line itself that's not buried deep enough, or if it's where it comes into the house that is causing the problem. But as long as we can keep the water running over the winter, that is a summer problem. And then we're here now in the main room of the basement, and they have mounted our taps for the clothes washer, which will be sitting on the pedestal that the former boiler system was on. And I can see, since the last time I was here, there's a bunch of orange foam insulation in some of the holes and gaps and things like that. You can see it there too. So that is good. It's actually pretty warm down here. The thermostat for this thing is set to 59. Feels pretty decent down here, actually. Oh, you guys, it's snowing and we're out on our way to dinner. And it's quiet. The snow is coming down. It's beautiful.
So that's it for today. Thank you very much for being along on the journey. I appreciate you all deeply, and I'm so grateful that you're here for this adventure. And I will see you soon in my next video. Bye for now.